Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to capture information from volatile memory using Kali Linux. So let's get started. Okay, so first let's go ahead and open VirtualBox. Just double click on it. If you get this message, just hit OK. Now what we'll want to do is first let's go ahead and start the Windows XP machine. So just go ahead and double click on it. If you get that, press any key from boot. Just let it run. Don't click anything. The reason that came up was because we still have the ISO from the last time we installed it. Okay, close that out. Okay, and once we have the Windows XP machine started, then we can also start the Kali Linux machine. You can also run this lab on a network, so maybe one partner could be running the Windows XP machine and the other could be running Kali Linux. However you decide to do it, but for the purpose of recording this video, I'm just going to be running them both together simultaneously on one machine, on one host machine. Alright, but you can do this over a network as well. Okay, so for the Kali Linux machine, just go ahead and press the first boot option, the live here, and then let it boot up. Okay, so in the Windows XP machine, we're going to do a few tasks. That way we can store that information in the memory. That way when we sniff out using Linux to capture the information, that way we have actually something to record. Alright, so go ahead and hit the start button, and from here let's go ahead and go to games, and we'll start a game of solitaire. Right, okay, so solitaire is open. Okay, we can minimize that. The next thing is we're going to want to put some information in the clipboard. Clipboard is the area in memory every time you copy and paste something in Windows. It's stored in the clipboard, right? So we want to try to see if we can capture that information as well. So just go, right click in the desktop, go to new, create a text document. It doesn't matter what you call this document, just open it up. So we can just leave the default name. And then here what I want you to do is type your name. Okay. And then from here, select your name, right click, and then copy it. Okay, so now your name is stored in the clipboard. Okay, so now that we have those two things done, now we're going to attach another program. We're going to attach that to the virtual machine, right? Originally we had a disk inside. That disk was for installing Windows XP, right? So now we want a different CD DVD disk image, right? So here we're going to attach the Helix ISO. So then you're going to go to choose a virtual CD or DVD disk file. Alright, so then from here you should have a copy of Helix ISO, or you could also, if you have the actual CD itself with the program on it, then you could run that instead from the disk drive, the host machine's actual disk drive. But here all I have is the ISO file, so I'm going to run that instead. Alright, so it's kind of simulating as if you had stuck the actual disk inside the virtual machine. In case you're doing this lab from home or elsewhere, and you need to download the Helix software, what you can do is go to the host machine, open up a browser, and then you're going to go to this address here, and then press enter, and then a download should already start up, and then you could actually just download the file itself from this website. But I already have it, so I'm not going to do this. Okay, so from this message here, go ahead and press accept, and then the next thing here is we're going to click on this little camera icon, so go ahead and click there, and then from here, from live acquisition, under location options, hit netcat, and then here it's going to want the destination IP address and the port number. Right, so this destination IP address is where the image of the memory is going to go. Alright, so we don't have the IP address yet. We're going to get that destination IP address from the Kali Linux machine. So from here, I'm going to close this out. Here we're going to just open up a terminal window. Just click this window here. Okay, and then the command to get the IP address is going to be if config, press enter. Okay, so once we have if config, then we have the IP address, which is going to be this number here. So this number, you need to give it to the person operating the Windows XP machine. So you could put that here in the destination IP address. So it's the same number except it's 132 at the end. Okay, but before you press acquire, you need to start the netcat listener, right, in the Kali Linux machine. To do that, you're going to type the code NC for netcat -L -VVV -P for the port number. That's going to be 8888, and then the memory dump we're going to do is going to be saved in a file called memory.dd. So then once you type that in Kali Linux, go ahead and press enter, and now the listener is on. Okay, so once the listener is on and you have the IP address, then you're ready to press the acquire button. So then press acquire. If you get this message box, just hit yes. Okay, so then we see now that the memory is being sent over to the Kali Linux machine, so it's dumping it over. So it may take a little bit. Just go ahead and wait for the memory dump to complete. Okay, so once the memory dump completes here, if you're running this on a different machine, that way you can prove that you actually went ahead and did this. go ahead and just go to Start, go to Run, go to CMD, open a command prompt, and here just echo your name. Echo Alright, so then your name will print out to the screen like this, and then what you can do is on your host machine, go to the Start button, click the snipping tool, and snip yourself a copy of this here. Right, and then just you can copy and paste this to a Word document. So just go to Edit, Copy, open Word, and then you can paste that there, and then you can submit this as your assignment here. And as far as the Windows XP portion, I believe that's going to be it for that. Right, so the rest of the things we're going to do it here in the Kali Linux machine. Now we're going to analyze the memory dump. Right, so you can minimize this if you need to, or if you're on another machine, then you can move on to this section here. Okay, so the next thing is we need to launch an application called Volatility. So to do that, first we need to go to the folder where it's located. So type cd -usr /share/volatility. Press enter. Okay, so now we're in that folder. Okay, so now we need to run a Python script for volatility. So just type Python vol.py image info -f Alright, so that image we acquired should be stored in this .dd file here. So we type this in and then press enter. The volatility program should start up. Okay, so now it's analyzed the memory dump here. Okay, so now let's see from the memory dump, let's see what processes were running on the computer, on the Windows XP machine. So to do that, you can press up on the keyboard, and the last command you typed will show up. But instead of using the image info command, we're going to use a different one. So just go ahead and delete this portion here. And then we're going to type ps list for process list. And we can see what processes were running on the computer at the time of the dump. So then press enter. Okay, so here's a list of some of the memory that was running. Oops. We can actually maximize this. Might be a little easier to work with. The list is kind of long. You can kind of put the cursor here on the edge and then maybe click up a little bit, and then this is where it starts here. So we have Win login, but if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we have this thing here called sol.exe, which stands for solitaire because we had run solitaire before. we had run Notepad because we had typed some text when we typed our name, and then we copied it originally on the Windows XP machine. We have Helix here. We ran the command prompt. We ran netcat. We ran the DDD. All that is showing up now, right? So we acquired all that information just from the memory dump. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to make a copy of this process list, right? So to make a copy, maybe save it to a text file so that way we can submit it for a grade, review it later on. You're going to pretty much do the same command, so just press up on the keyboard, but this time you're going to do the greater than symbol, then you're going to do a /root. So this is where we're going to save the file itself, so pslist.txt, and then press enter. Right, so now we should have the process list in a text file. Okay, so let's verify if that text file is in the actual, if it was saved on the Kali Linux machine. So go to Places, let's go to Computer, and then let's try File System. Okay, so from File System, I think I clicked the wrong one. Go to Home, and then Home, the pslist.txt we just created should be here. Here's the memory dump that we're analyzing. So we double click here. You see, so that list now shows up, the same list we're looking at, but now it's saved to a text file. Okay, so I just wanted you to verify that. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this out. Okay, so the next thing we want to see is the commands that were used in the command prompt before the memory dump. Right, so here the command, instead of being pslist, it's consoles. Right, so here what we're going to want to do is press up on the keyboard until you get to the first command where we type pslist, but make sure that you don't save over your pslist, right? I did that earlier. If you look at this command here, yeah, I made the mistake of pressing up, but here this is the symbol to write to a text file, but as you see I'm using the consoles command, but then I'm writing it to the pslist, so I saved over my pslist accidentally, right? But you can simply just run the same command again and to fix that, right? So that's the thing about using the up key. You have to be a little bit careful when you're working with it. Alright, so make sure you have it just like this without it writing to a text file. Okay, so now get rid of this pslist and then type consoles. Press enter. Okay, so here some of the information that had shown up on the command prompt is now now we have record of it. We can actually see it running. And it's kind of hard to work with here a little bit. Yeah, so maybe using the highlighting we can kind of go through it. Right, so this is when the memory dump was taking place. This is everything that was showing on the command prompt at the time. So now we can actually view it here. Okay, so now let's save this information also to a text file. So just press up on the keypad. And then here, let's create another text file. So it's going to be /root. And then here we'll type, we'll call this text file consoles.txt. And then press enter. Okay, so now that's saved. We can move on to the next command. Now we'll see what's actually in the clipboard. Remember, we had copied our name. We've copied it so that we could maybe paste it, but that name was already stored in memory in the clipboard, waiting to be pasted somewhere. So let's actually see that information from the memory dump. Right, so to view that, okay, so here, delete consoles, and then type clipboard. Press enter. Yeah, so just give it a little bit. It takes a little bit of time. Right, so here's the clipboard. Here's the text that we had copied. Right, so it'll take a little bit to find it, but once it finds it, it'll show it here. Okay, so now let's save the information from the clipboard to a text file. So press the up key. So here's the command, clipboard. Create a new text file called /root, and then we'll call this text file clipboard.txt. Press enter. Okay, so yeah, it took a little bit, but eventually it did save it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do with volatility is we're going to take what's called a pseudo screenshot based on the information that was stored in the RAM, in the volatile memory. Right, so we can actually see more or less what was on the screen at the time. It's not a perfect image, but kind of gives you an idea anyway. So press up here, and then instead of clipboard, type the word screenshot. Oh, okay, sorry about that, made a mistake here. So there's an additional command here. Make sure you type it this way exactly. So it's going to be Python vol.py screenshot -f for the file, but then we also need to save it somewhere. So type 2 dashes, then dump directory, dump dir equals, and then you put where you want your image to be stored. So we'll have it stored in the root directory. Then go ahead and press enter. Okay, so it created several PNGs here. At the end of this lab, we'll go ahead and look through them and see which one is. I think it's probably going to be this guy here that we're going to want. But we'll take a look at those in a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the visible and hidden windows that were enabled at the time of the dump, right? So we're going to use two commands for this. We're going to use the Windows command, and then we're going to use the WinTree command, right? So we'll see some of that code here, right? So okay, so instead of screenshot, let's type Windows here. And then press enter. Okay, so this file is very long. It gives you information about some of the windows that were open on the screen at the time. This file is probably going to be a lot easier to inspect and go through in an actual text file itself. So let's go ahead and just save that now. Okay, so here let's go ahead and create a text file. We'll call that one Windows TXT. Okay, and then the other command we're going to use is WinTree. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and use that. Okay, so instead of Windows, change that to WinTree. Okay, so now that we have the visible and hidden windows information displayed, let's save the WinTree information in a text file as well. So here /root, then WinTree.txt. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to look at the information that we saved. That way we can know exactly what we have, and we can submit that for credit, right? So again, let's go to places. Let's try the home folder. All right, so here are all the different files that we have. Here's the clipboard information that we saved earlier. Close that. So then here's the screenshot I wanted to show you, the pseudo screenshot. Right, so when we ran this, we had Helix open at the time. The command prompt had come up. Here's the taskbar on the bottom. Very crude image, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what was on the screen at the time of the dump. Right, so we have that information. Some of this other stuff is, if we click on it, they're empty, so they're not very useful. And then here's the Windows and WinTree information. Click here. See if we can find anything about Solitaire here. Maybe if we do edit find, and then we can do maybe sol.exe, find next. Close. Yeah, so here's the information on the window handle. Was it visible at the time? No, it wasn't. So some of the flags that were enabled. Okay, so if you're running Kali Linux from a virtual machine, once you get to this point, you might start running out of memory. It might be acting a little bit slow. One suggestion I can make, because we need to get these files out of the virtual machine, we could take a screenshot of each of the files that you need, paste them to a Word document, and then submit the document for credit. Alright, so first let's open up the clipboard file and then just maximize it, get a good nice view of it. Then we can use the snipping tool, and then just go ahead and draw around it here. Okay, so now we get a copy of that, so copy it, paste it to a Word document. Okay, so now we have the clipboard image. Okay, so then now let's go through the rest of them. If you can access your email, you could also email it to yourself, but if it's running a little bit slow, then you may have to take this route here. You can close that file out. Next, we'll get this here. Maximize this. The only problem with taking the screenshot is we won't be able to get everything, but we can get quite a bit of it here. Alright, so then again, snipping tool. Close that out. We already pasted it, so we don't need to save it. You can save it if you want. Okay, and then tool, copy, paste this as well. If you're running Kali Linux from a live disk, you should have enough memory to do all this. And to actually upload the files. You could probably upload them through the virtual machine straight to Blackboard or to your email. Then the PS list. The next thing is going to be the image here. Okay, so we'll take a screenshot of that. Okay, here's the Windows file. Take a screenshot of this as well. And don't get confused with all the X's, right? So if you click here, if you see this dialog box, don't power off the machine, right? And and then the last file, WinTree. And take a screenshot of this. Okay, so everything should be saved here in the document on the host machine. We did it through screenshots. Not the best method, but it works. Especially if you have you don't have enough RAM if you start running out of it. Close that out. And then from here we're done. The thing is, once we turn off the virtual machine here, everything that we worked on will be deleted, right? So that's why we needed to somehow make a backup or save it through screenshots. If you could access your email, then you would want to upload this file, this file, this one, this one, this one, and that one there. But just in case you can't, just go ahead and use screenshots, and that should be okay. Right? Don't upload this guy here, the memory.dd. We don't need that. And it's also, if you look at the file size, it's 200 megabytes. We don't want to upload that to Blackboard. So we can turn this off already.